Hello everybody, welcome back to Jamie's Hack Shack. What are we doing today?
This is day 3 of the Let It Glow Advent Calendar from the Pie Hut.
Alright,
so we are going to look at an activity here. We've got a schematic it's going to want us to follow. But so this is box 3. Got some more jumpers.
2 looks like, button switches.
So we've got some button caps and some buttons or switches.
Okay, there we go, yeah. There it is.
So that way, so we've got a red button cap and a green button cap, 2 buttons and some jumpers. And I think on this one, we can probably go ahead and strip those apart if you want to real quick. Let people see how they come apart, and it doesn't hurt them or anything. You can just separate them apart. So we'll do that. And
it's kind of satisfying.
Yeah. We'll do that and we'll get ready to do the next part. I'll show the schematic of what our end result is going to look like here. And I may make it go smaller or larger so you can see us as we try to match that. So we will start doing that just in a second.
Code below also uses pull down. So you can see this at the end of each of the button setup lines is pin.pull_down. So why do we add this? When we use a button, we're sending 3.3 volts to the GPIO
pin. Yep, that's one of these pins.
To set it high. However, we need to make sure the pin is low in the first place, or our code might not be able to detect the change, and or it might trigger itself randomly. Yep. This is because GPIO pins with no pull down or pull up can be floating between 0 volts and 3.3 volts. Pulling down to the pin to 0 volts ensure it's always low to start with. Sometimes this is achieved by using physical resistors in a circuit. However, some microcontrollers, such as our Pico, have this functionality built in, and we can simply enable them in our code.
Okay, so this is the first bit of code we're going to use with this stuff that we just set up. And so it looks like we're doing the same thing. We're importing pin and time, and we're going to have a true loop again, like you know from last time. So that's just going to go around forever, but it's going to put a small delay in it for each time it comes around. And if the red button is pressed, which is going to make it high, it should print out on the bottom there. It should echo out red button pressed. So let's see if that's what happens. So go ahead and hit run. All right, so now hit that red button and see if it tells us. Okay, red button pressed. And nothing should happen when you hit the green button, right? Yep.
So in this one, it's pretty much the same thing, except we're taking in multiple inputs. So this time, we're assigning red button and green button to their respective places, like pins. And we still have that time sleep value, but this time, we're checking for if the red button is high and if the green button is high as well. So let's see what happens when we click on the red button and click on the green button.
So red. So basically you can distinguish between 2 buttons now.
But it has to take a second and wait between.
Okay. If you're real fast, you might miss it, right? Because of the timing on the loop, you think?
And you can do 2 at the same time.
Cool. All right, let's see what the next code is.
In this next part of code, it's pretty much the same, besides the fact that we brought in the LED code that we used from yesterday to light up the LED on the board. And this one is showing that if we click the red button, the light will be off, and if we click the green button, the light will be on. Because we had made that red LED, what's it called? Red LED.
Hi? What?
No, variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So variable.
We're assigning values to the LED.
So now the code looks like when you press the red button, it's going to turn it off, and green button will turn it on.
Yeah.
So let's go. I don't know why this thing's glitching so much. Sorry, folks. So it's off on the bench. You can see the LED. So do we push the code to it?
So let's try the green button.
So green turns it on.
Red turns it off.
Will it stay on even if you don't touch anything else?
Yep.
And if you touch green again, it doesn't do anything, right? But if you touch red, it turns it
Well,
on.
it'll print it out. It'll print it.
Yeah, I see it right there down there. That's pretty cool. I don't know why the capture's glitching, but we'll fix that later. Cool, so that works, right? All right, let's check out the next example.
So this next program uses the toggle function, which is a function that toggles something between high and low. So it's kind of low. So it's kind of like how and when you have a light switch in your house, you don't have two light switches, one to turn it on, one to turn it off. You have one you turn on and off, so you're pretty much toggling on and off.
Right.
So here, it's the red button is now, if it's yeah.
So if you touch it once, it'll turn it on. If you touch it again, it'll turn it off.
Yes, that's what.
So it's not using two different switches.
Yeah.
And that's we're just messing with the red LED.
Yes.
All right, so let me switch this over here. If you do the red one, and then you just you're touching the same one. Nothing happens if you touch the other one now, right? Because the code doesn't care. Yeah. So that's using toggle.
So in this one, we are using a count function to use the buttons to count up and down from 0. So what this count variable does, it sets a sets the variable counter to an integer of 0. And so what we're doing with this loop is we're setting the red button to decrease the count by 1 and then print that number. And then with the green button, we're having that add to the count variable by 1 and then print that number. So what this is going to let us do is when we click each button, it'll add or subtract from 0. So let's see how it works.
Does it print 0 out? It doesn't print anything out at first, does it?
So 1.
If you hit, would it go negative? Would it do negative if you did? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. It goes negative, right?
So that's our red button. Cool. But then when we add up, so we're just updating that count variable. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what the next example is.
All right. So in this last part of code for today, what we're doing is we're having the buttons flash anytime we click it while also counting up. So.
But it'll also count down too, right?
Yeah, it'll count down and it'll count up. And let's do it. We're printing the count. But then we're also, it's just making it so where it's going to flash no matter what button is pressed. And it's just showing how you can make things flash and have LEDs do multiple things.
So it's registering your button press, and if you had a reason to go down or up for like volume almost, like if you were doing a volume control, but you wanted to get a flash each time that you were making a change either way, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. And today what do we learn about?
We wired some button circuits.
Yep.
We used if statements, pull downs, variables, the new toggle function, integers and floats and strings with the number for count and printing the numbers.
And I like how it says there, we controlled an output with an input. So we read in waiting for a button press, and then based on that, we made a pin go high or low, like turning the light off and on, right? So that's kind of cool. All right. So I guess that's it for today. And we will see you guys on day 4.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So in this example now, we got the stuff. Can you restart?
Sure.